Welcome to Gold and Black Live. That smiley face at the other end is Ken Halpin. We'll talk about him in a second. It is the October the 14th edition. It's fall weather in West Lafayette, and that means there's a lot of Purdue sports activities that Ken and I will talk about in a great, what will be an exciting weekend for Purdue football too. I want to thank our sponsors, Triple X on the hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. State Farm agent Trent Johnson at trentismyagent.com. We're grateful for the people that have supported us for years. I don't know, it's like 13 years we've been doing this show, and we've had a lot of fun doing it. And the reason why we have fun is because we have interesting guests, and Ken Halpin is one of those guys. We're not putting any pressure on you. You are interesting only because your content is interesting. Ken is the deputy athletic director in his second year, right? August 2021 is when you descended on West Lafayette, you and your family. But welcome to the show. I know that's the highlight of your day, but we appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Well, Ken, as a role of deputy athletic director, I know that you sit there and twiddle your thumbs on game days and things like that. Not true. It's a very full plate. But your role is maybe more externally focused, but talk about that, and also with the arrival of Tiffany Grimes as a colleague at that position as well, how you guys have ferreted out or parceled out, I should say, the workload.
Yeah, no, it's funny you use the term "so much on my plate." We actually there was so much out there, Mike. We needed another deputy, so and we got lucky.
She's something. Yeah.
Tiffany. I'm assuming you've had her on.
She was on last week. So yes, that's right.
So
she's
her
great.
Background is insane. Like, just on paper alone, she is one of the best in the industry. And then, as you know, as you get to meet her, you start to realize why. She's just so thoughtful. Her experiences with the institutions she's been at and the things she's gotten to do in her career, very few people have accomplished the things that she's accomplished. And add all of that she's a graduate of Purdue University. So to get to add her to our team, the bandwidth of the things that we are now tackling she's only been here, 8 weeks? The bandwidth that we've been tackling has grown tremendously. And we're talking about initiatives that we could not be more excited about, that are game changers with things that we're trying to do to be elite. And she helps maintain our nationally prominent aspirations, and those are aspirations she carried with her into Tuscaloosa and out of Tuscaloosa here back into West Lafayette, where it all started for her. So, so we kind of, I would say, split the department in half, and I oversee all of the outside stuff. She oversees all the inside stuff. And then from a sport oversight standpoint, she's got a few sports, primarily the primary one being football. And so her experience with football at Alabama was something that was a no-brainer. We wanted to make sure and give her the reins to administrative oversight for football here. And then mine is the men's basketball program. And so those are kind of our primary roles, and we're, partners in crime now. We've been joking. We probably talk, I don't know how many times a day, incessantly, but like, we have yet to have a scheduled meeting together. Everything has just been so just flowing so much that we're losing track of when the day starts and ends. So
change is the new constant. That maybe has always been your case in your athletics career, but I'm not sure how it's coming at you fast, and you gotta figure out what you prioritize. And it may be that from an administrative standpoint, is that as much of it as anything is, figuring out, what you have on your plate and what you need to deal with, but is it finding the time to focus on that 20% of the stuff that's really, really important? How do you parcel out your day as you look at your schedule?
It's a good question. Time management is a skill that it doesn't matter your industry. I think being good at it is sometimes more an art than a science.
Yeah.
You can science your schedule all you want, and all it takes is one unexpected situation to have to tend to. That's why I think, and that's why our boss, Mike Babinski, gets a lot of credit in putting people in places where we have the expertise to make sure that the things that got to get done are getting done. So we have, at every level of our org chart, we have elite professionals doing their job at a really high level, so that from a management standpoint, there's a lot of trust that the the gears are working. The process is moving forward. We're gonna host Nebraska this, tomorrow. The board show is going to be electric. The crowd's going to be in the stadium. Safety will be paramount, and excitement will be everywhere. All the things are going to work. And so that allows a lot of us, from a leadership standpoint, not just Tiffany and I, but our entire senior leadership staff, to be able to prioritize what is going to make sure that Purdue is relevant 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And when I say relevant, I don't just mean a name, but I mean nationally dominant. We have aspirations to be nationally ranked and actually pursue national titles in all of our sports. And so what does it take to get there? Well, we got to be really relevant in NIL. We got to be really relevant in the facility experience that we offer. And we've got to be really, really relevant in the student athlete experience that we offer. So, that's a big reason why, the fan experience is necessary. So a lot of my focus is on those supporters who help drive the economic engine. And then that's why I say Tiffany and her student athlete development experience, keeping the actual, I don't like describing our student athletes as the product, but when they're 60,000 strong in Ross 8 on Saturday, it's because of the student athletes on the field and the performance that they can bring alive. And so those are real humans. They have lives, they have classes, they have families, they have dreams of their own. And so the work that our staff puts into, in Peyton Stovall's area is primary for this, is making sure that they understand how much their life matters, not just their role as an athlete matters. All of that goes into making sure that Purdue stays relevant and nationally prominent and puts us in a position to pursue national titles for years to come.
Yeah, and that's an interesting and an important way of doing it. And student athletes, in segment 2, we're going to have Ethan Morton and Cassidy Harden on and talking about an NIL-driven experience, but it's really also for the Purdue Center for Cancer Research course, Hammer Down Cancer, tomorrow night as well. But it's putting those pieces together and making that experience. It seems to me that that is the wave of the future, and the way to get to top kids here to Purdue is part of that. Talk about that moving target. It seems, at least from my perspective, NIL, and how you've been able to begin to wrestle it to the ground. And maybe that's not quite the right metaphor, but it is a challenging thing of trying to get a lot of folks all in one place, or all moving in one direction to make it all work.
Yeah, it's been a moving target. The NCAA's Division I Council, when they came out and stated that NIL cannot be used for inducements, that was really loosely defined. And the hard part is, so we pride ourselves very heavily on always doing things the right way, and not just obeying the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law. And I'm confident we've not missed a step in that. But the trick is, there is no institution that's had any sanctions brought on them by the NCAA and the NIL world yet. And so the real question is, you can set rules, but then the guardrails really get set when you start to see who gets in trouble for it. And we're never going to get in trouble for it. So we're staying so conservative that we wonder at times, are we hurting our competitive advantage by being too conservative? As long as the line is so far away that it couldn't happen. That's the moving target that I think you're describing. But inside that space, we've been having a blast. We have our Director for NIL engagement, Jack Gallagher, has been hitting the ground running. He's gotten to know our student athletes, especially our Olympic sports student athletes. He's gotten to know them on a personal basis. Has been a resource for them to find true marketable NIL experiences. So again, not recruiting or retention situations, but when a genuine entity wants to utilize the services of student athlete, helping them understand what will fit into their time schedule, what's financially reliable, and all the tax implications. And then, we talked earlier, a lot of folks in the Purdue universe know who the Boilermaker Alliance is, know Jeff McKean and their board. I vividly remember the first time Jeff reached out to us. He came up, had a meeting with us, and just said, we want to know what's going on. So we described what we're trying to figure out. And he adopted everything it means to be a Boilermaker. Just how do we, the right way, put ourselves in a position to gather folks who care about seeing us be successful, and start studying what we can do to help the right way. And in every single step, they've never crossed the line of trying to do something that we would deem is outside the lines or breaking any rules. they've adopted a charitable cause. And when I say they've adopted it, that this is central to who they are. They're passionate about it, as I'm sure you know. And it's shown. They worked hard to put our student athletes in a position to understand the impact they can have in the community that we live in. And so we've been coming a long ways. We've got a lot more things. They've been generating ideas on new opportunities. They've been asking us if they're permissible and if it works, and they've been continuing to do the right steps. So we have not. There's a bright future, I think, in NIL for Purdue, because there's a lot of ingenuity around keeping things inside of what is ethically and legally correct. The excitement and the creativity is at an all-time high right now.
How do you measure, when you're in that situation, you mentioned about knowing where that boundary is and how close you can play up to it and stay within the rules, which you're right, Purdue, that's been Purdue's tradition going back a very, very long time. But how do you benchmark that? I mean, is that still a thing where you know, if there are prospects that you're losing because of this, or prospects that you're getting because of your stance? Is that still too early to say? We can say that we have solid numbers that we can look at and say we know we're heading in the right direction.
Yep, it's a good question. When a recruiting conversation happens, we've been adamant since the beginning. We're not going to tell a recruit a number. That is quite literally using NIL to induce a recruit.
Correct.
We now have some success stories. So what we're able to talk about, and we don't reveal identities of our current and former student athletes, but we have data. We can show the success stories that we've had. And we can show those that we are recruiting. We take this seriously, and here are the resources we offer so that our student athletes can trust that if they come to Purdue, they're going to have a comprehensive, positive experience, and it's going to set them up for success in life. And they're never going to have to wonder if their name or any name that comes around it is associated with scandal or with rule breaking. And so I just thought of another example, and it's escaping me right now, but we just at the end of the day, we're constantly talking about the word inducement. Is this an inducement for a recruit? Is this an inducement for our current student athletes? And making sure that stays far away from anything that we do. And here's the example I was going to use. I was talking with a staff member of ours who was talking about why they love Purdue, and I thought it was said in a really good way. It's not just that they love working at Purdue because Purdue will always do things the right way. It's that if they were ever asked to do something the wrong way, they wouldn't stand for it. They'd walk away. Our staff is actually populated with people who wouldn't put up with it in the first place. Yeah. So when you start to have really strong professionals who know what they believe in and know that they'll walk away if they're ever even put in a weird spot, that's a bunch of people choosing not to put people in a weird spot, if that makes sense. Yeah. So there's not even a tolerance for the discussion is kind of how I would lay it out. And so, yeah, have we lost recruits? Well, this all started early on because there was a very famous, basketball transfer that went to a different institution.
No doubt.
And we took heat for that. But at the same time, we know who we are. Purdue has never wondered who Purdue is, and we have yet to lose on any recruiting opportunity where we have felt that we sacrificed who we were to try to get somebody, and we're still right where we need to be from national prominence standpoint for the future.
Well, I know with men's basketball too, and certainly using Matt Painter as an example, it's pretty hard to get past his ability to do things the right way, understand perspective. You just listen to what he talks about at Big Ten Media Day this week, and you understand it. For many, many years, this guy's totally gotten it, and that kind of helps a guy in your position to have people like that to work with.
Couldn't agree more. And again, he has stability here, and he knows who he is. He knows who we are, and he helps set that tone across the entire department. You couldn't overstate that example more.
Yeah. All right. Tomorrow night, shoulder to shoulder, those students will be, and so will everybody else in the capacity Ross-Ade Stadium. I don't know. You probably got a construction management degree. I don't know how in the heck you guys are going to get this all done from November the 19th. I'm going to guess if that Northwestern game's at noon on the 19th, you guys will start about 4 p.m. that day on the construction project. Yes. I don't know if it'll be quite that much, but you've got, not only the Ross-Ade Stadium project, but just a little clubhouse being built on Cherry Lane as well.
Yep.
talk about that, because you talk about safety, and it's really an interesting thing, in my view. Safety of football players and getting to and from the football game, from their locker room to the and Purdue's crowds are relatively docile, but games at night and heated games like Penn State, you always have. It's going to be a better situation. My point is, when you're going to be able to put them through a tunnel and get them back to the locker room. I just want to see how in the heck you're going to get that built in a year. I know you're going to get it done, but tell me about the project and what makes you excited about all that's going on in Ross-Ade Stadium.
Yeah, the first step is I'm not the one building it. That's how I know we got a shot. Yeah. I can barely change a light bulb.
Yeah, me too.
I vividly remember my very first Purdue football game. We hosted Oregon State last season.
Yeah,
it was a very competitive game. Ended at night. We won, really exciting. And I, followed the team and listened to Coach Brahms' post-game speech in the locker room. And then we left the stadium and the crowd was still there. They were excited. And this narrow single file line of football players passed through our crowd.
Yeah.
And my very first thought was, how does this go if a nail biter comes down to the end? And basically our first game this season, Penn State, night game, national television, hard fought, didn't land our way. That was problematic. Getting our student athletes safely when our crowd was great, but people have been drinking all day. There's a lot of unknown. Our student athletes are emotional because they wanted that so bad. It's just ripe for problems. And so we've been needing this tunnel for a really long time. That was kind of the first bullet, was like student athlete safety and well-being is a massive need right now. And so that's the number one priority. Then we found ways we think we can have some fun with it and make a great game to experience. And so that's a big piece. The next one, from a recruiting standpoint, the biggest thing we're missing is the dining facility.
Yeah.
And so we have a perfect building that can be repurposed. It's super visible. It's going to be beautiful. That's going to be, again, from a recruiting standpoint, if you're a student athlete who is dedicated to being the best in the country at what you do as an athlete, that is showing you that you can come here and get that experience at Purdue. And a lot of things will become secondary, like NIL, but that's still real in what we do. Athletes who are serious about performing at the highest level want to know that they're going to be fed, they're going to be trained, and they're going to be able to grow to be the best in the country. And then the final piece is bowling in the stadium and creating a safe ingress and egress for our most rowdy group customer, which is our students.
Yeah.
That the energy they bring to the stadium, nobody would deny, drives the rest of the stadium. And it's the same in Mackey. The energy that the building drives off the student energy. So making sure that they can come and go safely, that they can be structured and organized, that they don't spill out over into the crowd. This gives us a great opportunity to manage that and then put them on display for the entire stadium to see right there in the south end zone.
Yeah, 21st century product. I mean, I'm going to be fascinated to see. I think the south end zone is very intriguing about how that will work and the experience. It's all about the experience now, whether it's for students and everybody else. You're competing against television, you got to get people there to have that energy. And
right.
And one thing that's been going on under Jeff Brahms' watch is people are coming. And that's very,
true.
very important thing. So that part. All right. You got other things to do today. So we appreciate so much your time and your insight. I could talk for hours with you on these subjects because they're very interesting to me on a personal level. But I know that our viewers and readers will think the same. So Ken, thanks again. Have a great rest of your Friday, and good luck to you for all that goes on tomorrow. You're helping put on a big show tomorrow, but there's also a football game that you'd like to see. You'd like to see Purdue have one more point at least than Nebraska, and
That's
we'll
what we
see
need.
if that happens as
one
well.
point
All
better,
right, we'll be back.
I'll handle the rest.
Yeah, no doubt. That if that happens, then everything else can fall into place pretty well. So that's very true. All right, we'll be back for segment 2. It promised Ethan Morton and Cassidy Harden, and really two fine young individuals. We're looking forward to talking to them and their role with the Purdue Center for Cancer Research and Hammer Down Cancer. Very important part of tomorrow night's event, and the fact that cancer research, one message we're trying to get forward to everybody, all the money that's raised goes to cancer research right at Purdue. It's one of the best things that Purdue University has going for it, and trying to make sure everybody knows about it. We'll be back in segment 2 for Golden Black Live. Segment 3, Brian Newbert and Tom Dienhart will try to talk about this football game a little bit more as well. So again, Ken, thanks so much, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes
Yeah.
on Golden Black Live.
Thanks, Alan.